Hello, welcome to Spotlight, brightening the autumn skies with arty goodness.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, we enjoy a walk around a wonderful exhibition celebrating architecture in art. Have a quick chat with legendary Status Quo drummer John Coghlan ahead of his gig at the Port Erin Jazz Festival this Friday with his group Quo Reimagined. And we also hear from a young actor about the joys and benefits of taking part in the National Theatre Connections programme. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you might be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in the spotlight. That's this programme, of course. Poetry, theatre, music, drama, literary, ceramic, sculptors, you name it. All comers are very welcome. You just need to get in touch and let me know, and let's see if we can feature you on the programme. Be great to hear from you. Spotlight at manxradio.com, or if you prefer, Howard Kane with an E at manxradio.com. I read them all, and I will get back. So, let's head up to Laxey to start and drop into the gallery which never disappoints and meet up with the curator, who also never disappoints, Julia Ashby-Smythe. And we're down at the Hodgson Loom Gallery again, down in Laxey on a fairly autumnal day, looking at some beautiful autumnal colours in the exhibition, which is currently showing down here. And Julia meeting up with us as always. Architecture in art, some lovely colours here.
Well, it is very autumnal, isn't it? But interesting how so many different styles, from the abstract to the real contemporary depiction of architecture, they all work beautifully, but there are lots of purples and golds and those, especially on a day like today when everything's going a little bit brown. You just want that splash of colour.
You do, and this is not one artist but a collection of artists?
It's 4 artists, all with very different styles, but the exhibition, with it being architecture, I thought it would be good to have that depicted in a number of different styles, to show that it's just not one thing.
And how did you bring the artists together for this one?
Martin Hearn contacted me quite a while ago. I can't remember how long ago, 18 months, I think, something like that.
It's nodding.
About an exhibition, because of his work is very much focused on Laxey. Val, I'd already spoken to her about an exhibition, and then she sold lots and lots of work, and so we had to wait until she'd done some more. And then it was bringing Ronnie Doyle with his very wild, loose ink and colour, along with Stephen Dimelar, who does the really abstract architectural art. So it was a good foursome.
It is, and it's, as you say, it's a wonderful mix as well. I are loving the colours around, because it does have a real feel of autumn. Somehow or other, just looking around, there's lots of browns and yellows and russets and gold colours, and it does have a lovely sort of autumnal feel. But as you say, quite a lot of different styles. Yes,
just to give that impact, there's something for everybody. You think of architecture and you might think that could be quite a static subject, but the way it's created and painted here, it's got a lot of life, and it's, you can feel atmospheric fear of winters and autumn and spring days and reflections and its shadows. It's very interesting to look at it from these different artistic styles.
It is, and we've got Martin and Valerie here with us today, so we paddle down the gallery a wee bit, and Martin is down here, down the far end. Very good afternoon to you.
Hi there, Howard.
And we're standing in front of an ink one here, Architecture and Art, and obviously advertising the exhibition itself. But this one in front of us, of Laxey Bay, is where this sort of inspiration for this series of paintings of yours first started, I believe.
Yep, this one is from 1971. We were talking about how long ago things happened, so it was quite a shock to realise it was so long ago. Yeah. So, but I made that one afternoon in response to a little story that had happened to me as a lad when I was sent out to this mill on the quayside, or the warehouse on the quayside where my grandfather worked. He'd forgotten his lunch, so I was sent out on a tram with his sandwiches, and somehow I contrived to miss the stop, or I ended up overlooking Laxey from Minorca, and it was the view that stayed with me. And then years later, when I was a student at the art college, Norman Sale produced some examples of student work and said, this is what you need to aspire to. And one of them was a drawing by Terry Gardner, a local lad from Laxey, of that same view. And I thought, well, I'm going to go back and do my version of that. And it wasn't until 71 that I got round to doing it. And I did a whole series then of views of towns around the island in pen and ink. So go forward about 40, 50 years.
In the blink of an eye.
Yeah, as it happened. And then I came across the drawing in my brother's collection. And I thought, well, I've got some unfinished business with that scene. I'm going to go back and do some more. So I went back and took some photographs and did some drawings. And that's the result that's on the walls here in the gallery.
That's amazing. And it's an amazing series, again, of various, I mean, again, of Laxey, of some of the towns. Are there places, I mean, was there a particular pattern to any of the places you went to, or is it a case of just whichever inspired you as you looked around?
Well, it's all from the one spot.
It's all just one, all looking at different views.
Yeah. That what I did was I constructed a collage of the view from Minorca, where I'd ended up, and I put them together on the studio wall. And then I treated that as the landscape that I was in and looked at them to determine what compositions and what scenes I would paint. So they're kind of sections of a much bigger collaged view of a Laxey panorama, really. So various, so you can see old Laxey Hill, I think this is here with the cyclist.
The cyclist going up, yes.
And it always intrigued me, this view of Laxey, because of the boats in the street. I always kind of thought this was rather comical, that one could be driving down Tent Road and there would be boats coming the other way, sort of thing. So I quite like that idea of the boats being in the street.
That is good, I must admit, and it's glorious. One, when you've got the lovely grasses in the front, the boats in the street, which, yes, it's true, and it is very odd. And then, as you say, in the background, going up Old Laxey Hill, you can see the cyclists just starting the long ascent up the way. And just to the left here, so this one's looking down towards the seafront and right down to the water's edge.
Yeah, so this is the warehouse that my grandfather was a tailor, so this housed Erskine's gentleman's outfitters, like a Burton made-to-measure outfit, but it was based in Glasgow at the time. So most people know this as the pipe factory now. But
I was going to say the pipe. I was thinking it's the pipe factory.
Yeah, it was a tailoring workshop where he worked, and so this is where I was sent with his lunch one day. I had to bring it down here. And this is what sparked it, in a way, the whole kind of idea of doing these views of Laxey.
And we'll just go a little bit to the right here, and another one just called Hillside. Yeah,
so this is looking up to South Cape, I think. And I quite like that. You know, when you're using a telephoto, or photographers out there will know that if you have a telephoto, it compresses the
foreshortens
it makes everything pattern-like. So I like the kind of idea of structuring this view of the hillside as a pattern, and it all went pear-shaped. It went terribly wrong, and so I put it in the bath with the shower attachment on it and hosed it down, scrubbed it all off, so you can see what was left is that sort of watercolour effect there in the background. Then I repainted this, left that as a kind of hazy, washed-out area. So I quite like that idea, you know, where you things happen, and so you surprise yourself, and I quite like that idea that everything's not predetermined, it's not drawn in pencil first, it's sort of allowed to evolve, if you like. So I quite like the accidents that occur along the way.
And this is in gouache, is that your normal medium?
Well, I quite like gouache, and I quite like it because you can correct your mistakes with watercolour. If it goes wrong, that's it, isn't it, really? You're kind of stuck. But I quite like that because you can go over it with opaque colours and make corrections. So I like the way that's built up as layers. So, I mean, I do like different techniques. It's mainly oil. So there is an oil painting up here that I've done on paper, and might be of interest to you.
Let's come to the far end here. Aha.
And it's on paper that's been coated in shellac, which is like French polish, I suppose. And this is the yellow that is coming through the canvas. So I painted it in oils, and the shellac just stops the paint from sinking into the surface. And then I've scratched back through that to bring out the orange tints that the shellac gives it. So, I mean, I quite like experimenting, different ways of producing a result. And then accompanying the paintings are these silver point drawings that I've done of, again, sort of views of Laxey.
Oh, yeah, I haven't seen these.
And these are done on gesso panels with a silver wire. So the silver leaves a trace of itself on the gesso panel, which gives you the drawing.
And they're terrific because the amount of detail and colouring and shading you get into these is sort of stunning, particularly if you just stand back a wee bit. It's almost, and sort of half close the eyes, it's almost like a lovely sort of old black and white photograph and such like, the amount of detail and the shading on them. Is it something, and again, obviously, they're all black and white looking at these, or in that sort of silver point, as you say, but do you actually enjoy, as we were saying with Valerie, sort of working with the different colours and lights and shades you get when you're actually out in the countryside, albeit the mosaic one clearly is all from the one viewpoint?
Yeah, I think with this series of Laxey, it's been about the colour and the light for me. But the original pen and ink drawing was about the topography and just mapping it out. And I used a mapping pen, and it was like trying to just describe with a line what was there in front of me. It wasn't any artistic interpretation. What came at the end was just the result of having mapped everything out. With this, it's been more about, with this series, the gouaches and the silver points, it's been more about the tonality and the kind of light and shade of the landscape, really. I think I've sort of, I didn't draw anything out like I did with the pen and ink. I hadn't mapped it out. I just went for it and hoped that it was going to work out. I'm doing a talk on Saturday.
That's what I was just about to say. Here it is.
Here in the gallery at 3:00. So it's everybody's welcome to come down. Come to the gallery at 3:00, and hopefully there'll be lots of questions that people want to ask me about the work. Yeah.
Terrific. So you're happy to field all questions?
Yeah. Well, that's good, because I don't have to. You don't have to make it up as you go along. As questions come, then you can respond to those. So yeah, be happy for lots of questions.
It's a wonderful exhibition. Ronnie Doyle was currently off the island when I was there, but says as he comes from a building background himself, it seemed only natural for him to draw buildings and architectural shapes. Although he's never really enjoyed sticking to beautiful straight lines, he says. He went on to say, my instinct is to let the pencil do its own thing, to be in the zone. That's when the magic happens. I'm sure that's true for a lot of art. So my pieces for the exhibition are a departure from my usual recognisable atmospheric paintings, and I feel I'm beginning to understand the meaning of abstract in art, not a natural thing for me. To date, I've wanted the viewer to be moved, yet easily recognise what he or she is looking at. So here I am, toe in the water. And if you want to see what an experiment like that is like, you want to get yourselves up there. As always, do try and check these things out. You've got plenty of time to get up to the Loom. The exhibition runs until the 9th of November with that wonderful spread. Martin Hearn, Valerie Galpin, Ronnie Doyle, Stephen Dimmelor.
Whatever you want, whatever you like, whatever you say, you pay the money, you made the choice. Whatever you need, whatever you use, whatever you win, whatever you lose, you show it up.
A bit of Quo? No. Quo Reimagined, with drummer John Coghlan behind the kit, of course. And Quo Reimagined will be at the Erin Arts Centre this very Friday as part of the Port Erin Jazz Festival with the group Quo Reimagined, which, as you might imagine, if there aren't too many imagines, takes a different take on Quo classics with a bit of a jazzy twist. I caught up with John ahead of his travelling over to the island to hear how the group had come about.
Well, it was me and Julie would go down to Warwick Hall in Burford. It's very close to where we live in Oxfordshire, and they have jazz once a month. And there's a guy called Paul Jeffries who's a double bass player, and I got talking to him, and I said I'd love to sit in and do some jazz one day. And he said, "Well, yeah, let's do it." And he said, "Why don't we do something together?" And I thought, "Oh yeah, that's right." So Paul got Ben Holder violin, vocals, and Alex Steele on keyboards, me on drums, and him on double bass. And we thought we'd play a load of Quo songs. And I thought, this is going to sound strange, violin, different vocalists, of course. Ben singing. Ben's got a good voice, by the way, and double bass and some brushes on the drums, and it was different, and it's worked out real well. I remember the first gig we did in Burford with Bob Young, who was our tour manager, harmonica player in Quo. He came along. Bob is very honest. If it was rubbish, he'd tell you, and he said it was great, and I loved it. So it's really good. And you think how many times I've played Caroline Down, Paper Lane, whatever you want, the usual arrangement with usual guitars and stuff, it made a nice change for me.
And do you reckon you've been a closet jazzer? You've obviously been known as a rocker, but you're man from the Rolling Stones. Clearly, you often used to say, well, I like the jazz as well as playing the rock and roll. Is that something you've always quite liked in the background?
Yeah, it is. Because when we started, when I first started playing drums, I was about 14, 15 years of age. And, I suppose in those days, I was born in 1946. So, mate, I was a war baby, mate. I popped into this world and not knowing about drums and taught myself eventually. And, of course, Mum and Dad used to like jazz. I listened to their records in those early days. And I see how the drummers, I'd like to do that. And, of course, I met Frighton and Alan later, and that became what it Quo and stuff. So that was quite different. But yeah, I've always liked it. I met Buddy Rich, and I've done that all, and it was quite an honour to meet him and spent 2 hours with him and that. But that's another story.
And so, have you had to adapt your drumming style a lot? Because obviously, jazz drumming is very different to rock drumming. So, have you sort of changed your style quite a bit, or have you sort of kept rock elements in? How do you feel you've changed your style for this band?
Well, it's some songs, there's brushes, and some songs with sticks. But yeah, you change it slightly, and you don't play so hard as we used to when we were doing the rock stuff. But it's great. I think a lot of drummers can do it. Charlie Watts was very good at doing that when he was doing his jazz, and then he played with the Stones, of course. But he just adapt differently. That's all. He just treat the song much lighter and without whacking anything. And it is a lighter touch.
And what about the arrangements for the bands? Have you have that been worked out? Different arrangements for some of the Quo classics?
Well, I think really it's the same arrangements. Because I thought about this. I thought when we were about to rehearse, I thought, well, I hope we don't change it too much, because the fans would say, well, what song was that? So really, it is about the same arrangements, some slightly different, but I will say that you'd recognise the song without doubt, so don't expect anything to be too different. So, but I can tell you what we're doing. I've got a CD here. We recorded some songs. We've done Paper Plane, Mean Girl, Big Picture, Laxey Men, whatever you want, In the Army Now, although I didn't play on the original. And then there's Mac the Knife, that's a jazz song, Living on Island, Caroline, Rocking Over the World. But, I'm looking forward to bringing it over. I miss the Isle of Man because we used to live on the Isle of Man for many years ago, and a couple of the band haven't been, so we could have a tour around on our couple of days off and have a look round.
Oh, it'd be great, bringing back old memories. I remember used to be driving around in the old army type vehicles and the jeeps and things. Yeah, I remember that well. Is it something that you are actually enjoying as something a bit different after so many years touring with Quo and such like? Is it refreshing? Is it nice to do something different?
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, that's without doubt. And, it makes a nice change. And I'm not saying you get to have a go at your success. No, the Quo players were lovely, and we did 2 reunion tours, and the original 4 Quo got back together in 2013 or 14. That was great, and the Quo fans are lovely. So we've with this jazz thing, John Coghlan's choir Reimagined, we've attracted a lot of fans, and obviously people that like Paul Jeffries and Alex Still and Ben Holder, jazzers, So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it is, like I said earlier, about you approach it in a different style. So, I'm looking forward to it. And so we're flying over on Thursday and we go back on Sunday.
A genuine flying visit, just hopefully time to see a bit of the island as well. And do you think, you mentioned the audiences there, do you think it might, from what you're saying, you do get a mixed audience, you get Quo fans, you get some jazzers coming in to see what it's all about and maybe something different. Do you think it might bring some of the music of Quo into a whole new audience?
Well, I think from what I'm doing, I don't really see Francis doing anything like that, but you never know. He does a lot of acoustic stuff, and I think he's doing a big tour, and acoustically songs are a different style. But I just think there will be people obviously coming to Port Erin Arts Centre to check it out. They say, "Oh, I wonder what this is about," and most of the people I've spoken to really enjoy it. So it's great, and they buy the CD. There's a book as well. We've got a book on my life called Spud, but that's another story. Unless you want to know all about me, but it's in the book. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to it, and I think being on the Isle of Man will bring back some memories. I want to go and see some of the old pubs I used to go to. Hopefully they're still there.
Intrigued? Well, you might be disappointed. I have had a quick look online and the gig is currently showing sold out. Possible returns, you'll just have to join the list. I know John, as he says there, does miss the Isle of Man, so he might be tempted back.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
We heard from David Dawson about the National Theatre Connections programme last week, where young actors and actresses get a chance to act in a specially commissioned play, both at their home theatre, in this case for the Island Kensington Arts, and at a partner theatre, which for the Isle of Man cast this year is Pitlochry Festival Theatre in Scotland, and also a possible chance, if you do really well, to perform at the National Theatre itself in London. Well, one young actor who knows just what the experience is like is Emily Musgrove, who's taken part in previous NT Connections programmes. I caught up with her as she was about to go into the first workshop ahead of casting for this year's NT play, Ravers.
It was really exciting because I'd never done any play work. I'd done more the side of musical theatre stuff. And just, like, I've always found that with plays, it takes so much discipline. And I just thought that I learned so much from it. And it means so much to me that I got the opportunity to do it.
What drew you into it in the first place?
Well, the idea of getting to go away and perform something was really amazing. And the fact that it's attached to National Theatre was just, like, so incredible to me. So that really drew me in, definitely.
So can you tell us a little bit about that play? Because you were saying just as we were chatting that it was quite a play.
Yeah, so Innocent Creatures is set, like, way in the future, and it starts off with basically, like, the robots have taken over, and it progresses over a really, really long time period, and you follow these two girls from when they first meet, and they both have completely different experiences with this, like, takeover. And then you meet them at the end when the world's going to end, and you find out so much about both of them and all the different things that they go through. It's really mind-blowing.
And what was your character?
My character was Mia, so one of the two girls, and I was in the very end of it. So after Mia had gone through all of these unrealistic, in reality, things, and just, like, she's trying to help her best friend through this horrible ending of the world. But yeah, it was pretty mad to try to follow that character.
And what is it about the acting process that's sort of magical for you? Because it's a very unnatural thing to do, and it's it takes quite a bit of nerve to actually go out and do it. What is it for you, which is sort of the real attraction for it?
I love putting myself in somebody else's shoes, and just trying to find every single, like, little aspect of their personality, and just slotting yourself right in there and thinking about every little detail. And I just like the empathy side of it, I think, is so cool.
And how about working with other actors and actresses?
Well, I've met a whole new cast of people who I hadn't really had any sort of experience with before, but seeing everybody work so hard to bring together a piece that was so mind-blowing is amazing, especially when you make such great like friendships with everybody. It's amazing.
Still get nerves?
Oh, always. All the time. I'm very nervous right now. Never done this before.
Well, you're not showing it. You must be a pro, I think. You are. Well, you're here again. So you're obviously going for this year's 2025 Connections. Well, I think we've answered the question of why you're back here again. You enjoy it so much. Do you know anything about the play this year?
I have no idea what it's about, but I'm happy to commit to anything. I love a new challenge and a new experience, so I'm ready for anything, really.
A director's dream. You'll go for anything.
Yeah, pretty much.
And what do you say to anyone who's never done it before?
Do it, because there's number one, there is no small parts, so like every contribution to it is so important, and it's like you build your confidence and you build your people skills. It's amazing. So definitely go for it, even if you only have a tiny interest. Go for it.
And of course, famously, a few people from KA, from doing the project, have gone on to great things. Would you want to follow in their footsteps? Would you think make yourself a professional actress, something that would interest you or not, or keep it at an amateur level?
I mean, that's always been sort of a dream since I was little, but I think that acting for me is definitely an outlet and something I'd like to enjoy as my creative outlet and just let it be my hobby, because acting it takes you away from your real life for a little while, and I think that's really great.
I hope she did well at the workshop and gets to experience it again. We'll hear more, no doubt, about this year's Connections programme in future Spotlights. That's about it for this week. If you want to hear anything again, go to manxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where and when you want. Why not try it whilst trying to decide whether to put your heating back on or not, and then discovering when you do, it's not working anyway and you need a plumber. See you next week. Until then, look after yourselves. Whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Emo.